Welcome to the Big O Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe.
Still the same damn kid from Oklahoma, same old dreams hanging off my shoulders, just wishing and waiting on a shooting star for all to see.
And now your host, straight out of Oklahoma, former Buffalo Bill, Jerry Ostrowski.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma.
Welcome in. It is Thursday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central Time. It is once again time for the Big O Show here on the Overreaction Buffalo Network. Josh Allen, overrated. We'll talk about that and some more here in a moment. But as always, folks, remember, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. And we'd advise you to hop over to YouTube. If you're watching on X or Facebook Live, hop over to YouTube, get in the comments. But if you're there, lots of people watch this show, but they don't subscribe. Subscribe. It helps us out. We're trying to get to 2,000 before we get to the start of the season. We are over 1,500, so we're making our way. But hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button as well, and let us know you like what we're bringing to you content-wise, because we're sure having a lot of fun doing it. But, hey, today's show going to be short and sweet, folks. We had a little bit of this conversation earlier in the year, I guess about a month or so ago, talking about Josh Allen when they put the rankings out, and Josh Allen was ranked second in the NFL as far as quarterbacks go. Now we have a report that comes out. 103 players were surveyed from around the league. 11 votes, the number one vote getter, Josh Allen, the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. Quite interesting, you might think. I thought it was rather interesting. I hate anonymous polls. I hate anonymous, questionnaires and things like that, because it allows people to say some pretty ridiculous stuff. So, I'm sure you've heard a lot of these things already. We're going to go back and review some numbers. We're going to talk about why I think Josh Allen is thought of maybe as the most overrated quarterback in the league. Then I'm going to give you an example of another absolutely stud professional athlete that had a very negative connotation spoken about him. He's now in the Hall of Fame. So we'll get to that at the end. But right now, let's get to the particulars. Let's get to the numbers as we talk about Josh Allen and this thought or theory that maybe he is overrated as far as a quarterback in the NFL. We'll start here. Where does Josh rank among quarterbacks in their first 6 seasons? These are some numbers that we talked about before, but we're going to bring them up again. Josh is 5th in attempts in his first 6 seasons amongst all quarterbacks. Tied for 4th in passing touchdowns, 3rd in rushing yards, and 1st in rushing touchdowns, and I believe 1st in overall touchdowns. But then there's that pesky turnover number. Josh ranks 61st, folks. Not 1st, not 2nd, 61st all-time in the first 6 seasons of his career amongst his peers. As a matter of fact, as far as passing touchdowns go, 167 passing touchdowns. He is tied with the great 2-time Super Bowl champion, Hall of Famer, Peyton Manning. Okay? Peyton, however, during this Hall of Fame career, has 110 interceptions over his first 6 seasons. Josh Allen, just 78. I say just 78. That is still a high number, but below the great Peyton Manning. And as I said earlier, folks, no one through their first 6 seasons has more total touchdowns than the Buffalo Bills' Josh Allen. Then we go ahead and break it down a little bit further, because I think right now in the NFL, we're looking at a time where we've got some really good quarterback play. So if we want to compare Josh Allen to other peers, we'll talk about Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, the likes. So if you compare Josh Allen right now, his numbers to those guys, okay? If you look at where they are, as far as games played goes, which we've talked about before on the Big O Show, durability and reliability, and knowing that if an ownership or an administration pays you, you will be on the field to play, that is of high demand. Josh, first in games played. Mahomes, I think, 2 under Josh. I'm sure he probably got rested in certain times and they had things locked up, but like significantly more than a guy like Joe Burrow, who some like to put in that category as a guy ahead of Josh Allen. As far as his win-loss record amongst those quarterbacks, he's second. Completion percentage, he's fourth. Total yards, second. Yards per attempt, he is third. Yards per game, he is second. Total touchdowns, first. He is last amongst those quarterbacks in turnovers. But we'll get to that in a second. Here's how I'm going to talk about that. And here's, to me, is a statistic that is pretty interesting. Turnovers, okay, turnover to touchdown ratio or differential. Touchdown to turnover differential. He is first amongst all those guys. Quarterback rating, he is third. Imagine some of that has to do with that turnovers. So if you look at this, when you compare him to the likes of Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, he ranks second. When you take all those numbers we just went through, he's second only to Mahomes. Amazing. Isn't that where he was ranked in the preseason before we get ready to start the 2024 season next week at home in Highmark Stadium against the Cardinals? Second only to Mahomes. Then you look at this statistic, which I thought was pretty interesting. If you look at touchdowns, total touchdowns, in the first 5 seasons of his career, Allen has 150 touchdowns. Only Hall of Famer Dan Marino with 171, Cam Newton with 160, and the afore talked about Super Bowl champion and definite Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes has 159. Only those three have more touchdowns in their first 5 seasons than Josh Allen. And finally, another statistic to solidify this farce or craziness, jealousy, misunderstanding, whatever you want to call it, that Josh Allen would possibly be an overrated quarterback in the NFL. If you go to PFF, and PFF grades all players, but they have a quarterback grade where they call it elite, okay, an elite grade for games, Pro Football Focus. Since 2020, no other quarterback in the NFL has had more than 8 games, okay, has had more than 8 games graded in that elite level, except for one. His name, Josh Allen. Josh Allen has had 14, folks, 14 games since 2020 in that elite grade range. All other quarterbacks have had no more than 8. The guy that has 8, Mahomes. So if you look at statistics alone, what are the pundits or the players or the anonymously polled athletes, whoever, what is the thing that they want to hang their hat on? What is the thing that they want to go to time and time again to try to bring Josh Allen down and try to drop him a level from the elite quarterback that I you and many others around the NFL know that he is. That is that turnover number. We kind of squashed that a little bit earlier when we talked about touchdown to turnover differential amongst his peers being first. We talked about him with the likes of like a Peyton Manning. And look, folks, there's other elite quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame that he has less interceptions or less turnovers than. Guys like Brady, okay? There's a lot of them that he has less turnovers than. Like we talked about, 61st in the first 6 seasons in interceptions. But I'm going to give you an example of a player before I explain to you why I think it is so hard for people to really grasp what Josh Allen's all about. I'm going to give you an example of another person who had immense talent, who was a champion, who was an MVP, or who was a Hall of Famer, a guy that became, statistically anyway, the greatest hitting catcher in Major League Baseball. So just bear with me a second as I go towards another sport. That would be Mike Piazza. Piazza is a guy that I actually grew up in the same area with, played Legion baseball against him. And Piazza, obviously, you know the story. Lasorda, his dad, gets drafted in the 61st round as a favor. Next thing you know, he's playing in the bigs as a catcher, never played catcher in his life. If you look at Piazza, okay, like Josh Allen, big-time numbers offensively. 308 career batting average, 10 Silver Slugger awards, top 5 NL MVP voting 4 times, second twice, has an OPS, okay, which is on base plus slugging, which is kind of the nouveau, this is the coup de grace of batting statistics. If a guy is really doing well, 800, I believe, is considered above 800, or .800 is elite. Piazza, .922 OPS, on base plus slugging percentage. Absolute witch, absolute terror at the plate. But like Josh Allen, had to constantly battle the negative connotation or the negative talk about the fact he couldn't throw anybody out at second. And because he had trouble throwing people out at second because his arm wasn't big, they said he was terrible defensively. He wasn't a good defensive catcher. Lots of people felt that he should have been held out of the Hall of Fame because he wasn't a good defensive catcher. But if you look at his statistics, if you take the time to study it, like we've all studied about Josh Allen, you see this, okay? While Piazza, okay, opponents that he played against had a 77% success rate stealing bases on him. Not good. But if you look at his career behind the plate, when Piazza was catching, the pitchers he were catching at the time, when he was in the game catching games, those pitchers had a 3.80 ERA. 3.80 ERA. Piazza wasn't in the game. Those catchers had a 4.34 ERA. Same pitchers. If you look at hitters, okay, and we talked about that OPS stat being the big statistic. When Piazza was behind the plate, hitters had a .723 OPS. Without Piazza behind the plate, .748. Big difference. You wouldn't think it's a big difference, but it is a big difference as far as that number goes. Then here, folks, is what I believe is kind of the equivalent to that touchdown to interception or touchdown to turnover ratio that Josh Allen leads amongst his peers, or those 6 guys we talked about earlier over the last so many seasons. When Piazza played, okay, and there was a bunch of different ways they did this, but he was responsible, okay? The other team, they scored a 20-70, okay? 20-70 less runs over that time period than other catchers in the league defensively. He was responsible for 20-70 less runs scored than other catchers in Major League Baseball defensively during his time period in Major League Baseball. So there's a similar situation. Hall of Famer, great player, completely misunderstood with a negative storyline his entire career based around this anomaly or this untruth that he was not a good defensive catcher, which is the same situation we have with Josh Allen. Okay? Same situation. Here is why I believe this to be the case. I talked about this about a month or so ago, and I'm going to bring it up again here on the Big O Show on the Overreaction Buffalo Network. Again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate you guys. Tell your friends about us. When you watch, if you're watching the shows on YouTube and you haven't hit that subscribe button, take the extra 15, 20 seconds, hit subscribe. It helps us out. My theory on Josh Allen, this whole overrated story that's being pushed by people not in the know or haven't done the research that myself or many others and you, the Mafia, have done. Plus, we've seen it with our own eyes, either on TV or live, is the fact you can't put him in a box. He has no peers. The size he is, the way he runs, the arm strength, the way in which he plays, you can't comp him. You hear it all the time during draft season. Somebody's coming out of college, okay? They want to right away compare him to somebody else. Drake May comps his Brock Purdy. I don't know. I just made that up. But everybody wants to comp players. You can't comp Josh Allen. There is no Josh Allen. Nobody runs the way he runs. Nobody has the power that he has. Nobody has the arm strength that he has. And nobody has the passing ability he has. There was one guy in the NFL that was, you could probably say if you had to comp him to somebody, you could comp him to this guy. And that would be a guy that did have more total touchdowns over his first 5 seasons than Josh Allen. That would be Cam Newton. But you can't comp Cam Newton to Josh Allen because Cam did not have what Josh has. That is durability. He doesn't miss games, folks. He plays in games. He'll play banged up. You may agree with it. You may not like it. It is what it is. He's a tough dude. So you got Jim Kelly toughness with amazing athleticism, power, and the ability to make big plays all over the field. Can't comp it. Nobody can comp it. That's why we get these silly narratives that we get across the NFL right now where we want to say, Josh Allen, he's overrated because he has too many turnovers. If you get that turnover number down, I might think about it. No, if they get the turnover number down, if Josh protects the ball better, which he does need to do, if he protects the ball better, they'll find something else to complain about. I think I heard a little bit this offseason. He's not a passer. He's a thrower. He's not super accurate. Okay. The other thing I'll say about this is that you can talk about overrated all you want. It's where guys fit and what systems they fit in. Ask San Francisco as a prime example. 31 teams didn't want Brock Purdy. The 32nd team did. That was the Niners. Now they got a quarterback that fits his system like a glove. Showed it in the playoffs. Hurt his elbow. Didn't play. It was hard on him. Or later in the season, it was hard on him. Then he comes back. They made a Super Bowl run, but if he was healthier, maybe have the chance to win. But the deal is this. You can't comp Josh Allen. The other thing you can't comp is what he means to the Buffalo Bills and this football team. Because without Josh Allen, this is an average football team at best. Some people feel maybe below average. That's what he means to this franchise. Hey, I'm the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski. You've been listening to the Big O Show here on the Overreaction Buffalo Network. Next week, folks, the Big O Show, Thursday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. It is game week. We're going to get into game week mode. We're going to get into regular season mode. What I mean by that is we're going to talk about the Bills. We're going to give you an in-depth look at the Bills and their opponent on the Big O Show from here on out until the season's over. We're going to dive into the Bills, who they're playing that week. And one of the things we're really, really excited about here on Overreaction is we have added Dr. Brad Bowen from Driven Physical Therapy and Performance. It's out in South Buffalo, in the South Towns in Buffalo. He'll come on with us. We'll talk about that injury report. And then hopefully we are powered by Believe. We'll have some other guys that are some content guys that work with the Believe Network for the team we're playing. Hopefully get them on to talk about the opposing team we got going on that week. So we're real excited about it. Big O Show shifts gears. It's regular season mode starting next week. In-depth look at that week's game. Dr. Brad Bowen will be on with us to talk about injuries, and we'll get into a bunch of other stuff as well, not only with the Bills, but then also the opposing team. So again, this is the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski. You've been listening to the Big O Show here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. Folks, we appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Again, hit that like, hit that subscribe. And as always, go Bills and much love.
I'm still the same damn kid.